I'm El Hadi Jazairi.
And I'm Rania Ghassan, and we're partners of Design Earth.
So our submission to the League this year was entitled GeoStories, and it puts together a series of projects that Design Earth has been engaged in over the last 6 years. The theme of impermanence, the way we've addressed it, is in relation to our current ecological crisis, questions of climate change, broadly the issue of an impermanent environment, and the role of architecture in responding to that. And in particular through technological systems. We try to move away from an understanding of crises as a crippling guilt or assumptions of technological fixes, and we rather see it as a moment of possible change. And that requires a vigorous environmental imagination that we think that the architectural project is very equipped to address that. So that's how we've addressed the theme of impermanence through a series of 10 projects.
The idea of the project is to emphasize the representation. So for us, we try to avoid frames, no colors, no frames, no perspectives, and we try to use the drawing as a research medium as much as possible. So all of our 9 boards, as well as the small model, are made of very rough materials, recycled metals, MDF, and the idea is to sort of facilitate the sort of understanding and be direct about the message.
So these series of artifacts are in fact one of the projects of GeoStories. So it's one submission entitled Neck of the Moon, and it takes the question of the Earth to its geo-orbit. So we look at the information and space age through a series of decommissioned objects that together start to pose a threat to any further space travel that we're thinking of. So that's the prompt of the project, and we respond to it through a series of medium, as Hadi just pointed out. So there's the 9 big drawings on the wall. There's also a significant public component to this project in particular. So we want to think of how to reach a big audience and a diverse audience. Some would call it maybe a mass public. So there's a video which is part of it, a series of postcards, and then a publication, which is something that our practice believes strongly in, entitled Two Cosmograms. So these series of artifacts come together to highlight the significance of drawing as a research medium. Our work through the frame of the environmental question addresses the relation of the city to its hinterland in both the way it procures resources from far away, but then in the way it displays coasts, or what is called externalities, into what lies geographically and politically beyond it. So the series of projects respond to such context in different geographies. Our submission, GeoStories, is the coupling of 2 terms: geo, which is the Earth as a grand question of design, be it a site, a scale, or an aesthetic of the architectural project. And then stories is the mode of narrating or representing such information and making them shareable with a broader public. It does carry a dimension of asking you to imagine these site-specific projects, but to take them as a way of reflecting more broadly on the environmental questions. So there's a series of projects that address logging in tropical forests, the question of trash management in North America, the question of offshore oil in such sites as Rios, and I'm probably forgetting a few others, but the sites are symptomatic of a larger condition, but the specific geography is very important to actually allow you to anchor your imagination in a specific site and make the story more credible, more engaging.
Design representation, this is something that we are very much interested in, and we have started really by going against the sort of photo collage, MVRDV maybe type of images that are hyper-realistic and that intend to put the work into a context that is almost realistic. So we just wanted from the start to set up the work in totally different context, a speculative context, a theoretical context. And we thought that going back to the line drawing and the very simple line as a medium of expression, as a research method, was the way to go. We also think that the section for us was very important, the section of the earth, trying to see or to think about the relationship between the earth at multiple sections below the earth, the surface of the earth, the atmosphere, the geostationary zone in relation to each other. So we are very much interested in the large scale question, and we are also interested in the way the drawing can show that.
So our work does seek to move a series of contemporary crises, be they trash, energy, or resources more broadly, and move them from the domain of things that are considered as matters of fact, that have an existing pragmatic solution, into opening up the set of questions that are relevant. And that has, at the same time, a dimension of making things public, accessible to a broader public, but also have a set of policy implications on who is involved in the decision-making process or in the imagining of such futures. So that opens up a certain set of disciplinary expertise in domains which were not necessarily part of the conversation earlier. One can think of how questions of energy infrastructures or trash managements were not necessarily on the table of designers, but our work does seek to bring that to the forefront.